Okay, now the next phase of this painting is going to be creating some dynamic perspective by using those little squiggly light patterns that you always see in photographs of the sea floor that are shining through the waves at the surface and getting distorted to create those patterns. What waves do is, where they're bent upward, those high spots take all the light from the whole wave and they bend it into those lines that you see. So they change the direction of the light. Now with this technique, you want to interrupt, you want to overlap and make lines interrupt each other. So I'll do something similar to this one right next to it, watch. Like that, and then I'll take this and I'll just feather it like this, a little bit, not too much. Let's do some more. So I have a line going this way, maybe I'll put another one coming out this way. Now I'm going to build a line out of multiple lines. See, because I don't want big long lines traveling through the entire scene. It just won't look natural. This big brush I'm feathering with even creates new horizontal lines, and that's okay up in there. But I am going to run into a problem where this is going to be too bright of a color as it gets way up in here. So at that point, I can either darken my color or just put it on thinner. When I say put it on thinner, here's a way to do that. Make this skinny little squiggle and just stamp it with my hand, and that really squishes it to its thinnest. And then someplace in this, I just want a real bright color. Something that's at full concentration. Let's just pull this out. Yeah, so I'll leave that nice and bright. The dense water is bouncing light all over the place, reflecting it, So not only is the sea floor reflecting light up into the shadows of the rock, but the water itself everywhere is reflecting the light, more so than air would do. So it causes the shadows to be not as black, not as dark. So I'm going to use a lot of blue in the shadows. And then I'm not going to get too bright on my highlights either. See, I want some blue in here. That's just a very brown color. This is underwater, so I'm developing this as I go. Make this just disappearing into the background there. So way back here, it's going to be far away. So I'm going to make it real similar to that color. It's darker when it dries. When I paint, I oftentimes don't really know what I'm making, but I know enough to get me started. So I just start putting paint down. I know that I want the further things to be darker blue. I know that I want the closer things. So I just start putting colors where I know they make sense. And I don't worry too much about the actual shape of the object until I start imagining something. Then I'll say, oh, I can kind of see it turn into this. Then I'll go with that. I'll make it into that. Maybe that's a little bit of light coming off that thing. Yeah, that's cool. Then maybe back in here, we'll make another part of it coming up out of the surface. And that's further away. It's also closer to the surface, so instead of the blue, I'm going to go with the green blue because it's up here where it's lighter. I don't want to forget where my light source is coming from back there, so front-facing edges do need to look shadowed. My paintings tend to look a lot different because there's like 100 colors in this little area right here, because this is all different results of red, yellow, and blue, black, white, rather than just results of, say, a turquoise and a black. But see, it helps me to see a lot of different options as I'm going and decide what I like the look of the best. I might have a little bit of light. This is pretty close to this seafloor, and everything in a painting is somewhat of a light source. So whatever light is hitting this is bouncing and hitting other things. So this being close to it, I'm going to put a little highlight on the bottom edge of this rock. Need lots of blue for this background. I got to be careful not to make it too dark or too light. I want low contrast levels in the background. So whatever it is, it's got to be something real close to what the background is because it's far away. Put some yellow in it up here too so that it matches this top color better. You see I darkened that down because I want to be careful. Even though it looks real cool to have that bright highlight, I want to keep it toned down so that it doesn't outdo my highlights up here, because I might want to come back with some more little sun rays on this too. Wood grain, if you chop a tree, then if you chop straight across that tree, you're going to see the rings. So just like here, you see rings and you see all of these swirly patterns. Think of that as the sliced image. But then if we slice it this way, well, think of the tree. If you slice it that way, you get the stripes, the long stripes of grain. And that's like these rays coming down through the water. So if you've ever seen a piece of wood that's curved, got a curved cut on it, you'd see it transitioning from those rings to the longer vertical stripes, and that transition would have some wild looking curves and distorted images in it, and that's when I think it looks really cool when you have that. And so where I have this bending around a surface that goes from horizontal to vertical, then I'm going to do the same thing with these. I'm going to start stretching them down to more vertical patterns. Okay, then if I want to wrap it around these are real distant. So I just want to make sure that I tighten up my shapes and make them more of the blue color because they're distant, and so they're colored because they're distant, and they're also smaller because they're distant, but the shapes are the same kind of shapes. See, I just stamp it out with my fingers until I get it as light and subtle as I want it. Okay.